Hello and welcome to Don's FSD Challenge. This is an ad hoc run down to Farmville, Virginia from the Springfield supercharger. We are going to see how FSD runs on this 155-mile jaunt, currently on 2020.24.6.1, which was a surprisingly large update. We're going to see, I've noticed really good behavior on the roads overall. And so we'll see how it goes down I-95 through Richmond and then on some state roads. So stick with me here. I'll catch all the good stuff hopefully and consolidate that down. So let's take a run. Here we go. This is another good example where the car still has a tendency to stay too far left. It's gotten better at that. They've certainly tweaked that to get back out of the fastest of lanes, I think, for the most part. But they still have the algorithm set to say, oh, it's perfectly fine to be in this third to the left lane, but we are going way too slow for this lane. So as soon as this car passes us, I will slide back over manually. This version really has a tendency to do what it just did, that it starts completing the lane and then it just cancels out, and now it's like really confused. It must have thought the truck was in the lane, who knows, but that's I've seen a lot of that in the few days since I've had this this version. Here again, there's really no reason whatsoever for it to move over. Don't know why it feels it needs to do this to follow the route. That Subaru came out of our lane and came around, so Gracie did a great job of actually just kind of holding and letting that car by, because they were clearly much more aggressive. This version is better at not jumping in front of other cars. As we see here, this guy was coming up much quicker. I really would prefer not to be here in this lane at 60 miles an hour, so I'm going to have to go faster. I really struggle with that mild, average, Mad Max mode. It just doesn't seem to actually do that much difference. I would have thought there that mild would just kind of hung there, but instead it dropped us over. Now let's see if it'll... So it's getting much better at this, right? It is getting us out of this lane, so that's good. The autopilot team has repeatedly said that they're designing this in such a way that the car is experiencing each next section of road as if it's the first time it ever sees it. And I just don't know that I agree with that approach entirely. I understand why they say that, right? Because the car needs to be able to react and interpret the scene in front of it, because the roads are never the same. But at the same time, every road has a culture. Every road has quirks. And as a human driver, you learn what that culture is and what those quirks are. The first time you go through a road, you are cautious and you are timid as you kind of feel your way through it. But then as you drive it more, you learn how the turn works, you learn where the potholes are, you learn how the signals work, you learn all of those things. And you don't go into that intersection blindly every single time. And so I hope that eventually the autopilot team blends those two things, the ability to see and react to the world as it is being presented to you right in the moment, while also incorporating what you know about the culture and reality of the road that you are on. I think that's a really important piece of this equation as they try to move forward. So here I'm on I-95 South. Traffic on this is heavy. It moves quickly in the left lanes, and there are often big traffic jams. And there's a traffic jam down near Richmond at the moment. If it's still there when we get there, Navigate on Autopilot will tend to just try to jump back and forth in the lanes every time things like there's a little gap. It sort of jumps over. Like here's another good example. It thought this car in front of us was a little slower, even though I have it set on mild, and so it moved over to the fast lane, and then moved right back over to the center lane right in front of a car that was behind us. Why didn't it just stay here? I mean, this could have been part of that bigger cultural view of, like, how do I interpret the road I'm on, both in the micro of what's right in front of me and the macro of what I'm doing. Now, I don't know why it just dropped down to 65 there, but and I think that's some of the biggest limitations I see in trying to use Navigate on Autopilot on a daily basis at the moment is that conundrum of basically the car only literally interpreting what it sees in the few seconds right before you arrive at it, and you're going in knowing that it's not going to work right because you know there's a pothole there, or you know that the curve tightens and the car doesn't adjust well to that, only reacting in the instant. So that's one thing I'm really looking for in each new update is, does it get better at the macro level of interpreting the roads it's on, not just the micro. Well, here's a case again where I had it set on average. It jumped right on over to the fast lane, and now it can't really get back, right? Because the middle lane is pretty well jammed. Thankfully, at the moment, I'm not really hindering traffic, so I'll see what it does here up front. But this would have been a good case where knowing the road is just, show some patience, stay in the lane for a while, see if it really is necessary to jump over. Okay, so all of a sudden it decided that it wanted to be in the left lane for some reason after being just fine for miles and miles and miles. And I had already set it back to mild lane changes, not even average, and then it just decided I was going to do that. And as you can see, it never really could get over. And if it had just been patient a little bit, would have been just fine. Well, at the moment, the car is doing a nice job of not making any weird lane changes, even though we're 10 below what I've got it set for. The traffic here is actually going below the posted speed limit, but the car, I transitioned it over to the mild lane change, and at the moment it's just kind of holding its place, which is perfectly fine. Not going to gain you anything much to get over to the left lane, and the left lane is moving faster than 75 whenever it can. So I'm perfectly happy with the car sitting here at 66. I think that's the right thing to do. Um, other than if the car were to get smart enough to know that if it's going to jump in the left lane, that it really needs to be able to maintain traffic flow with that lane so it doesn't impede all of 95. Yeah, but at the moment this is good. I mean, I could always manually say go ahead and go over. Let me go ahead and put the rear view cameras on too, so you can see, you know, got people kind of coming all around me, and you know the left lane is moving fast, and but this is just a nice the middle lane on 95 is a nice comfortable place to be. When you want to just kind of go about the speed limit or a little, you know, in my case, 5 over. And so that works out well. And now we're going to slide back again here. So I'm happy with that. I doubt every driver will be happy with that, but that's what Mad Max's mode is for if they want to be much more aggressive and have a higher posted limit. Of course, we're on the interstate, so you can set autopilot, I think, up to like 90 miles an hour. So I could, if I wanted to be in the left lane, I could be set well above 75. But you know, the nice thing about navigate on autopilot is you don't have to do that. You can just kind of chill and let the car do its thing. And in that sense, it's far better for the car to just kind of chill out and, you know, not try to do stuff it doesn't have to do. And that little segment was perfect. Coming up here just north of Frederick, looks like we've got a traffic jam, so we'll see how it does in that scenario. Traffic here will just get heavier and heavier as we approach Richmond. All right, we're approaching this little traffic jam here. Gracie already decided to move over a lane because people were already slowing down. We can see it up here stopping, so we'll just let it see what she does here. See, it's a little slow and slowing down, but not bad. No, it's fine. Pretty comfortable. And now, you know, this is where it'd just be nice just to kind of hang out in the middle lane, but she's here, so let's see what she does. Even on mild now, in conditions like this, the car tends to jump around a bit to different lanes as one lane starts moving or another. It just doesn't really get you anywhere, and you just look like one of those aggressive jerk drivers when you do that. And it's so prefer if it just stays. For now, I'm going to leave. I just had a thought as I was approaching this traffic jam. I bet if I adjust the speed limits to like just above where I am, it'll keep it from jumping around. So I might try that. We'll see how it goes. But this traffic jam doesn't appear to be too long, and hopefully we'll see how it goes. But it's good test case here. So. So far, so good here. It's just stayed. Gracie hasn't tried to change lanes, hasn't tried to jump around, so that's nice. The thing I wonder about here, though, is the sign said the 2 left lanes were blocked. We're sitting in the left-hand lane. The longer we stay in the left-hand lane, the more like jerks that we look like, because we're just jumping everything else. And even if we stay right up to the end, it'll be interesting to see if she can detect and make the transition over in all the heavy traffic. As we see here, there's just cars, you know, obviously we're in a traffic jam, so it's not like there are huge gaps to get into the middle lane and then again over to the far right lane if both lanes continue to be blocked. We'll see. All right, so here we've got the merge. So let's see what Gracie does. See what she doesn't detect it yet. She doesn't detect it yet. Doesn't detect it yet. Nope. Who knows what it would have did there in the grand scheme of things, but no good. Well, that's a perfect example there of um, what people who really emphasize that this software is not yet full self-driving. That's the kind of example that they are pointing to, where you can get lulled into thinking that the car is really driving itself, going down these roads for hours on end sometimes. And even during that traffic jam, it did, a pretty darn nice job overall. But when that lane merge came there, Gracie did not detect it, or it looked like she might have been detecting it right there at the last second when I broke out, but not in any kind of human way, giving anyone, either the driver or the cars around Gracie, enough time to have confidence that she was seeing what was going on and react in an appropriate human way to get out of that lane. And that just reflects that really it's the software as deployed so far does not really sense the scene in aggregate and really be able to see it the way a human being does it. The software cannot see a box sitting in the road, for instance. It can't see those. It can't sort of interpret the lane closure scene in ahead of time in a way that humans can look way out into the distance and say something is there that I need to be paying attention to and I need to be ready for. And now as we, and I'll talk about that later. So that's just a good example of really that we're on. You can see the glimpses of what full self-driving is going to be, but it is not yet full self-driving. It is still just navigate on autopilot. Autopilot down the road, maintain lanes, maintain distance, and then the navigate is be able to take intersections like we'll do up here in a few miles, but it is not full, interpret everything on the road and be able to react appropriately. As we approach our exit off of I-95 onto 195 south to begin our westward trek over to Farmville, you'll notice that all of the steering wheels are blue, and that reflects that Gracie believes it can take all of those turns on navigate on autopilot. It should be able to do them all all itself. It shouldn't require me to intervene. We saw that it correctly got over into the right-hand lane. It's like both lanes turn to the right, so it can, generally speaking, when you see situations like this with two lanes that can exit, it will stay in this lane and then make the exit. So let's see, 300 feet, clear. I can, whoa, it's, all right, well, it certainly did that. Not very comfortable, and if I'd had a passenger, they would have been freaking out. So definitely an improvement needed there. I did not know that this was actually a toll road, so this is kind of an interesting case. Back about a mile ago, the car appropriately changed over one lane, which allowed it to stay in this express lane through the toll booth, and so we were able to just go right on through there without any problems whatsoever. Here's a great example of where Gracie is very conservative. We had this Jeep coming in an on-ramp. We were 80% in front of him, and then Gracie slowed down to let him in. So on one hand, it's very good. She saw the Jeep. She knew the Jeep had to come in. She let them in. But any normal human driver would have just stayed the course. The Jeep could have slowed down, merged in, or even accelerated a little bit to let the Jeep in organically. Or just slid over one lane over to the left-hand lane and let them come in and go on their merry way. So overall, did the right job. It got safely allowed the merge. Pretty smooth, no big dramas either way, but not quite like a human would do it yet. And coming up to this toll booth, it definitely says, I don't know what to do here, so she's going to drop back to navigate on autopilot, which she already did. The lane we're in is good. I should be able to just come up to it. I wonder what it'll do. I'm going to see if navigate on autopilot will come to a stop. It is not going to, so I am going to brake out again there. And there we go. Thought maybe autopilot would see that as a traffic control point and come to a stop, like she does at traffic lights and stop signs, but could not quite do that. All right, so go back into, and here we are coming up to South 288. It's a cloverleaf. Again, we have the blue steering wheel, so it thinks it can make the turn. It's already signaling, which was really nice and advanced. That's good. Come on, anytime. All right, over she goes. Slowing down nicely so far. Very nice. Smooth. Ah, there, and she dropped out of Noah. Interesting. So now she's on I guess that's what, a county road? But still doing her thing. Still able to go here. I'm going to just use the accelerator to acknowledge that I'm still here. She's still got the lane, a little close there. Nope. Over. She will not let me make this lane change here. Oh. Oh, that was interesting. It allows Noah on this road, but wouldn't allow it through the whole cloverleaf. Nor would it allow me to do the lane change. We have a lane ending up here. Well in advance of that, she's signaling to get over. Very nice. And the lane's going to merge again. Oh, so still got that tendency to creep right when the lanes sort of come together like that. Very nice job there, right up to 70. So, yeah, interesting exchange. All right, we've exited onto Hull Street Road in Brander Mill, Virginia is what this counts as. We're now on a road that has traffic signals, so we'll even be able to see that, which will be nice. We're surrounded by cars right now, so I shouldn't have to touch anything at this point. And sure enough. Oh, okay, that was an interesting example there. So even though there are cars in front of me, they were a little too far away to allow it to just go without confirmation. I used the accelerator pedal to confirm. And while that's a really cool feature to allow the car ahead to serve as the confirmation, because the software only allows you to go to the speed limit, or in this case 5 over, it's still not really enough to keep up with traffic. So the cars in front of you are pulling away, and by the time you get to the next traffic light, they can't serve as the confirmation anymore. Anyway, here we go. We're obviously in traffic here. You'll see the green limit line. That is new in this version. Before, that limit line was only red or gray, and now when it's green, it's telling you that it's gonna traverse through the intersection without requiring a human confirmation on our part. So again, we've got the green limit line because we're in this traffic, and it's able to just continue through. So this really dramatically improves the experience of using traffic light and stop sign mode, because you're no longer having to confirm for literally every single intersection, and the car just kind of nicely moves along here. I still wish it detected and decided to slow down for stoplights sooner. There again, it was a little late, it was a little abrupt. It had to use the friction brakes rather than just regen. I think all of that will come with time, and could also go back to what I was talking about earlier with better situational awareness and thinking about how to manage the overall flow of the car beyond just the next 300 feet or so. Here we have a four-way stop, or just a four-way interchange with blinking red lights. Oh, that look. I just kind of let that go and didn't actually intervene since there were no traffic around me. It reacted at the light, actually. Still thought it was a traffic control must stop. Not actually what it was. It was, it's a very odd light, actually. Blinking red, but you still had right of way through there. I'll have to watch that on video to see actually if I missed something, but regardless, the car was not able to detect it in time to have stopped anyway if it had to have, but the reality is it shouldn't have reacted at all there, unless I missed something, which I'll see on the video. We're on Holly Farm Road, heading for Farmville here. This is just a little nice reminder that, back in AP1 days and the early versions of AP2, even just driving on autopilot down a road like this, where you have all these undulations and little crests and knolls, AP1 couldn't handle that, and early versions of AP2 couldn't handle that. All you had in AP1 was the forward-facing camera, and it was looking way out, right on the horizon. And so anytime you would come across a little crest, it would lose the lanes and it would freak out. It would jump left and right. Now you don't even think about that anymore. Now, like, I can't be on navigate on autopilot in here, obviously, but I'm in autopilot and it's cruising along at the speed limit because that's all it allows when you're in the traffic light mode. But it just, I don't really even have to think about it. I can just enjoy this beautiful drive down this 2-lane road in rural Virginia, and I don't have to worry about that crest that's coming up right there and whether the car is gonna freak out over the knoll. And it's just one small example of how Tesla is advancing this self-driving in these little bite-sized chunks every day, and you don't really notice it all the time. You don't always grasp that you're actually making these advances because you still see the limitations. You still see the cases are so glaring where it can't do something. You almost tend to forget all the cases where it used to not be able to do something and now it just does them and you don't really think about them. And these little crescent knolls are one of them. All right, we're approaching the Farmville supercharger, which just opened a couple of days ago. And opened is actually, oh, and it's on the nav. I didn't realize it. Must have just showed up on the nav. There we go. Farmville's Main Street supercharger. And we're back on navigate on autopilot. Just let this go up to the stop sign. Pretty timid here, but it's good. And we'll stop. I'm not going to drop out. And there's a little welcome to Farmville. Should be at the sheets right up there on the right. Wait for the lighter. Should go in here. All right. Looks like they're all the way here in the back. Okay, there goes, that ends the Adhoc run from Springfield supercharger down to the Farmville, Virginia supercharger. And that worked pretty well. A couple of breakouts. We had the crash or whatever it was that had the left lane closed. Gracie wasn't able to detect that. And then I can't remember, there was another place I had to break out. Not quite sure, can't recall. Anyway, good run, and now time to charge.